Hidden Billionaire reveals incredible truth. Simple employees' mockery sparks life-changing love. Jack stood at the grill of Rosie's diner, steaming pots and sizzling bacon wrapping around him like a warm hug. The sweet aroma of cinnamon rolls filled the air, cutting through the morning chatter. And with every flip of a pancake, he felt the love he poured into his cooking. Yet his heart ached. His father, once a robust man, now trembled with age, and his sister, Sophie, needed more than what their small town could provide. Every day was a balancing act between scraping by and dreaming big, his calloused hands bearing the weight of their future. Then she walked in. Chloe, with her sleek hair and polished smile, seemed to shine bright against Rosie's faded decor. Jack barely noticed her tailored outfit, his gut clenching at the sight of someone who looked like they belonged in a world far removed from diner countertops. When she suggested they modernize the menu, Jack couldn't hold back his laughter. Modernize? You want to turn this place into some fancy restaurant? It slipped out before he could stop it. The snickers from his coworkers only fueled the fire. Chloe's brow furrowed, and when she tried to defend her ideas, Jack's sarcasm lashed out again, leaving an uncomfortable tension hanging in the air. But Chloe didn't flinch. Instead, she stood tall, her voice steady amidst the growing resentment. I want to help. This diner is a community treasure. Her passion surprised him, and for a heartbeat, he felt something shift within himself, curiosity sparking amidst disdain. As the days passed, Jack watched Chloe work, her laughter and determination drawing locals in like moths to a flame. She organized events, hosting meetups that brought the town together, reigniting a sense of connection and joy once dulled by the weight of financial struggles. Jack started to notice the twinkle in Sophie's eyes when she talked about going to college, dreams melding into plans thanks to Chloe's encouragement. It was hard for him to reconcile the vision he scoffed at instead. Waves of guilt crashed over him. Maybe he misjudged her. Just as Jack's resentment began to wane, his world spiraled further. Their gas line ruptured, forcing Rosie's down just before the bustling weekend crowd was about to flood through the doors. Becalmed in chaos, the town rallied around them. Jack's heart raced as people poured in, offering help, sharing memories, and pooling their resources to keep the diner afloat. In that moment of vulnerability, shared laughter and tears stitched together the fabric of the community he had overlooked for far too long. Suddenly, Jack faced a tumult he couldn't ignore. He was losing more than just a job. He was grappling with the dreams he held for his family, and the realization that Chloe might just be the catalyst for change he desperately needed. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. Amid layers of fear and longing, a moment loomed. Chloe looked at Jack, ready to open up about her past, the hidden struggles that shaped her drive. Just when he thought he could reach out to her, a truth simmered just out of reach, ready to spill over and alter everything. Would he be able to let go of his frustration and embrace the possibility of love and transformation, or would those walls keep them apart for good? Jack stood at the diner door, the weight of the night pressing down on him. Hurricane winds of emotion swirled, pushing against the walls he had built so carefully around his heart. Chloe's gaze felt like a light piercing the shadows, but could he really let her in? His thoughts twisted as he replayed their interactions, her laughter, her fierce passion for Rosie's, the way she made people feel valued again while he'd only seen a business in decline. Jack? Chloe's voice broke through the whirlwind of uncertainty. She took a step closer, the dim diner lights framing her like an ethereal glow. He could see the sincerity in her eyes, the openness that made him want to unravel every hidden fear he had tucked away. I was thinking, she started, hesitating only for a moment, about what we could do next. There's a way we can still host the fundraiser, even with the diner closed. The community really rallied around us, and I think they come together for something special. Her enthusiasm jolted him. He felt a flicker of hope, but guilt quickly rushed in. How can we do anything when we're underwater? I don't want to drag you into this mess, he muttered, the bitterness hitting him like a slap. Jack, this isn't just about the diner. It's about what we can show the town about rebuilding. They need something to believe in again. She stepped in closer, the scent of cinnamon and coffee lingering between them, tangible and warm. He met her gaze, caught between wanting to reach for her hand and the fear of breaking it. I don't know if I can be part of any of that, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Chloe's expression softened. Sometimes it starts with just a single step acknowledging that you need help, that you want it. Her sincerity hit him hard, and he knew deep down that the walls he had built were crumbling. They talked late into the evening, voices weaving through the remnants of the diner and the memories that filled its walls. Chloe shared snippets of her life, the pressures of expectations, of growing up in a world of privilege, yet feeling trapped in its confines. It was a story of resilience, one that resonated with Jack as she spoke. He felt the layers of his own struggles peeling back. He told her about his father's fading health, Sophie's dreams, the weight of being their sole provider on his shoulders. With each admission, he felt lighter, the night air swirling around him like hope dusted with possibility. But just as they were beginning to envision the next steps, a figure appeared at the corner of the diner, the mayor, Joe, with a worried look etched on his face. Jack. His voice boomed, cutting into the intimate moment. We need to talk about the fundraiser. There's been an accident in town. Jack's heart sank. The vulnerability he was starting to embrace felt overshadowed by the burdens of reality. Chloe glanced at him, eyes wide with concern, but he could see the determination building within her. Would this challenge tear them apart, or bind them closer together? Closing his eyes briefly, he breathed in deeply, wondering what the next moment would bring. The path ahead was foggy, fear of the unknown clawing at him. Yet, for the first time, the prospect of facing it alongside someone who believed in him gave him courage. What if this fundraiser could be the turning point, not just for Rosie S., but for both of them? As they stepped out of the shadows of uncertainty, hand in hand, Jack felt the faint stirrings of hope. But what would they uncover about their pasts in the process? Would the truth bring them together, or would it push them further apart? Jack's heart raced as Mayor Joe stepped into the diner, the urgency in his voice slicing through the cozy atmosphere they had just begun to build. An accident? What kind of accident? Joe rubbed the back of his neck, the tension in his posture evident. There's been a fire at the warehouse on East Main. It's bad, Jack. Several people are injured. We need to mobilize the community fast. That's why I came here. Chloe's grip on Jack's hand tightened. He could see the wheels spinning in her mind, the same fierce determination that had sparked during their earlier conversation igniting once more. What about the fundraiser? She asked. Could we turn it into a relief effort? Collect supplies, raise funds, whatever we can to help those people. Joe looked between them, his brow furrowing as if weighing their suggestion. We might be able to shift the focus, he said slowly. But time is critical. A wave of anxiety washed over Jack. How are we supposed to pull that off? The earlier glimmer of hope began to flicker, threatened by the heavy weight of his responsibilities. We don't even have the diner to serve as a gathering point. Chloe stepped forward, her voice steady despite the tremor in her heart. We have more than just the diner. We have the community. It's about the people who care. If we can get them involved, they might surprise us. Jack stared at her, the admiration swelling in his chest, but doubt loomed over him. And what if it all falls apart? What if Jack— Listen, she interrupted gently, standing firm in front of him. You asked how we can rebuild. Now is our chance. We can't wait until everything is perfect. Her eyes sparkled with a fierce light. We can be the change we want to see. Let us make this a rallying cry. Her words ignited something within him, a spark of belief. Maybe they were just a couple of kids trying to take on the world. But perhaps that was enough. Jack took a deep breath, feeling Chloe's warmth beside him like a protective shield against the doubts pressing in from the outside. All right, he said, more to himself than to her. Let us do it. Let us reach out, get people to donate whatever they can. We'll set up a drive at the town square tomorrow. Joe nodded with approval. That's the spirit. I'll put out a call to the local news and get the word out. We can use the diner as a collection point, even if we can't serve food. As plans fell into place, Jack felt a swell of hope. They were all in this together, and for the first time, he sensed that they might actually be able to do something worthwhile. But as they worked out details, unease lurked just out of sight. Jack's past didn't just fade away. The old worries about Sophie, about their future, crept back in. Was this enough? Could they really make a difference when pain hung so heavy like a cloud? Chloe caught his anxious gaze. What's wrong? He hesitated, grappling with the swirling emotions inside him. What if we don't have enough resources? He finally admitted. She stepped closer, reaching for his hand again. Then we get creative. We inspire others. And if we don't succeed, then at least we tried. That's what matters. The sincerity of her commitment touched something deep in him. Her faith, radiating like the warm diner lights that flickered above, brought his fears to a simmer. Maybe this was exactly what he needed to step out of his comfort zone, whether he was ready or not. As they continued to brainstorm, the flickering light bulbs above swayed slightly, casting dancing shadows around the diner. But lurking in the corners were old ghosts waiting for their moment. Jack felt the weight of his past pressing closer as hope fluttered in tandem. What if the challenges ahead would invite the truth to surface, forcing him to confront the very fears he tried to outrun? As the urgency of their situation wrapped around them like a cocoon, Jack grappled with the notion, could he embrace this new cause while facing the shadows of his past? Tomorrow, they'd start the journey. But Jack couldn't shake the thought that the real work might lie in uncovering the past he thought he had buried. Would it hinder their mission, or could it be the key to something greater? As dawn broke, Jack felt the weight of the new day pressing down on him. The urgency from last night lingered in the air, sharp as freshly brewed coffee. He stood by the diner's window, his pulse racing, watching the town slowly come to life. People passed by, some catching sight of him, their expressions a mix of concern and curiosity. It was the same look he'd seen too often lately, the acknowledgement of shared struggles, but also an unspoken worry clinging to the edges of their smiles. Are we really going to do this? He murmured to himself, the words barely escaping his lips. The thought of reaching out to those in need made his stomach twist with both excitement and fear. Chloe arrived moments later, her hair still damp from her shower, and a determined look plastered on her face. Ready? She asked, her enthusiasm contagious. Let us make it happen, Jack replied, forcing a smile. With each step toward the town square, his heart beat a little harder. He felt like a kid on the first day of school, nervous, unsure, but eager to see what lay ahead. When they reached the square, the sun was shining down brightly, illuminating the small crowd that had already gathered. Tacked to lampposts were colorful flyers announcing their relief effort, and a few townspeople were already setting up a makeshift collection station. Jack couldn't help but feel his hope swell again. Maybe they couldn't fill the diner with the scent of freshly baked pie, but this was a new kind of nourishment, one for the soul. People began to trickle in, offering supplies, monetary donations, even willing hands to help organize everything. Jack and Chloe moved among the crowd, sharing their vision, their energy infectious. Laughter mingled with words of encouragement as they arranged boxes and tables, each person finding their place in this unexpected mission. Then, as if the universe was listening, a familiar face appeared, Sophie. At first, he thought it was a mirage, but the next moment, here she was, standing right in front of him, her expression a blend of surprise and uncertainty. Jack, she spoke, her voice just above a whisper. I heard what happened. His heart tightened. It's good to see you. We're organizing a relief effort for the warehouse fire. What about you? I wanted to help, if I could. The vulnerability in her eyes reminded him of the past they shared. Memories flooded in, good ones and painful ones, and Jack felt that familiar push and pull. Chloe, with her ever-watchful presence, sensed the shift. Why don't we figure out where you can help? She suggested. Her voice gentle yet firm, Sophie stepped into the mix. Jack felt the tension of expectation. A flicker of fear creeping back in. Here was a chance for connection, but also a reminder of everything he thought he had left behind. Yet, he watched as Sophie began to engage with others, her energy slowly harmonizing with the collective spirit around them. For the first time in a long while, gratitude swelled in his chest. Could they truly transform this gathering into something beautiful despite the shadows that loomed just out of sight? As they continued the drive, with laughter and fervor, Jack whispered to Chloe, "Maybe this is what I needed. A chance to find light in the darkness." But just as they thought they were gaining momentum, the sound of fire sirens pierced the air. Drawing closer, the color drained from Jack's face as he exchanged worried glances with Chloe. What if this was just the beginning? Would the past he feared come rushing back into their lives, threatening to snuff out the candle of hope they had just sparked? As the sirens grew louder, Jack's heart raced. He turned to Chloe, her brow furrowing in concern. "It's not happening again, is it?" The unease in her voice echoed his thoughts. This wasn't the fresh start they envisioned. Sophie had been helping a mother load canned goods into a box. Her laughter cut through the tension, but it didn't last long. She glanced at Jack, sensing the shift around him. "What is it?" she asked, the concern in her eyes deepening. Jack swallowed hard, his mind racing back to other fires, other disasters. He could feel the weight of those memories, the times when hope dimmed under the ashes of despair. "Nothing," he managed, forcing a smile. "Just, we're all set here, right?" Chloe, ever perceptive, placed a hand on his arm. "Jack, if there's trouble, we need to know." Just then, a figure appeared, running toward them, face pale with urgency. It was Marcus, the town's volunteer coordinator, and he looked shaken. "Jack, Chloe, the old mill, it's on fire." Panic swept through the crowd, murmurs rising to a crescendo. The mill had been a staple of their community, a gathering place, a bridge between the past and their fledgling hopes for a brighter future. "What do we do?" Sophie asked, her voice rising above the chaos. "Stay calm," Jack shouted. The urgency in his own voice surprised him, but he knew he had to keep them together. "Let us get everyone organized. We need a plan." He felt a rush of adrenaline, fear swirling with his instincts to act. "Chloe, can you coordinate the supplies? We need water, blankets, anything people will need." "On it," she replied, her voice steady. Jack turned to Sophie, and in that moment, he saw determination etched across her face. "Help me set up a staging area away from the fire. We can gather volunteers from the square." Without waiting for a response, they sprinted toward the square. He could feel her presence beside him, the air between them thick with unspoken tensions from the past, yet igniting the fire of unresolved feelings. As they reached the space, the reality of the moment hit him harder than the sirens. People were scattering, some running toward the mill, others moving in the opposite direction. Jack took a deep breath, his heart sinking, but he couldn't let despair take hold. "Not now. Everyone listen up," he shouted, hoping to drown out the rising panic. "We have a fire at the mill. We need to help not just there, but here. Those affected will need us." The crowd surged, ready to respond, some grabbing anything they could find to help. Jack felt his gut tighten. They were all processing the chaos in their way, but he needed them focused. He exchanged a glance with Sophie. Underneath the worry, he saw something hopeful in her eyes. "Let us pull them together," he said urgently. Together, they organized groups, assigning tasks, trying to keep spirits high. But as the flames grew, licking hungrily at the wood and debris, doubt crept in, cold and ominous. What if they couldn't contain the fire? What if their efforts wouldn't be enough? Jack caught a glimpse of the billowing smoke against the blue sky, but the sight was suffocating. "We can't let fear win," he whispered more to himself than anyone else. When he heard it, an explosion echoed from the mill, sending debris flying and the crowd erupting into screams. Jack's breath hitched. "Get back," he shouted, pulling Sophie closer as people scrambled for safety as chaos unfolded. Jack realized they were standing at a crossroads. Their past whispering its haunting doubts, yet the present demanding their strength and the flicker of firelight. He felt the pulse of the town, a community ready to fight against the flames. But would they fight against their own fears too? Ready to face what's coming? He asked Sophie, locking eyes as uncertainty transmitted through the air. Always, she replied, and he hoped they could unlock the potential hidden within the fear that clung to them. But something deep inside him pondered. Would facing the fire mean confronting what had been left unspoken between them, as well? As the crowd recoiled from the explosion, Jack's heart pounded like a drum in his chest. The air was thick with smoke, swirling chaos encasing them all. He caught a glimpse of Marcus rallying volunteers. Jack felt an urge to follow, to reach for hope amidst the confusion. Stay close. He called out to Sophie, who remained steadfast, her eyes blazing with determination. They pressed forward together, hearts racing, adrenaline coursing through their veins. Over there, Jack gestured toward a group of familiar faces, old friends, neighbors. They were standing by the fountain, uncertainty etched on their faces. He sped toward them, leading Sophie along, each step echoing with urgency and desperation. Listen up. Jack stepped in front of the group, his voice barely cutting through the panic. We're going to create a fire brigade. Some of you will grab buckets from the nearest wells, while others can direct traffic. Keep everyone safe away from the mill. Nobody gets hurt, right? A voice in the crowd quavered, a mother holding her child close. Not if we act quickly, Jack replied, his resolve solidifying. He had faced fires before, but never one so close to home, one that threatened their lifeline, their community. Sophie stepped up beside him, her hand reaching out for his. Together we can do this, she added, sharing her strength with the others. They nodded, encouraged by her spirit, and rallied around them. Jack turned to see Chloe at the supply table, sorting through blankets and bottled water, her face a mask of focus. He admired her. She represented unwavering hope, even amidst the roar of flames. Chloe, he shouted above the chaos. We need more buckets. Can you send someone to the creek? With a quick nod, Chloe tore away to gather more volunteers. Jack felt a rush of gratitude. Each person here represented something larger, a thread in the fabric of their town. Woven together through shared experiences. As they organized, Jack caught Sophie's eye again. It was hard to ignore how much her presence grounded him. You remember the last time we faced something like this? She asked, a soft smile breaking through her worry. Yeah, when that tree fell during the storm, Jack replied with a brief memory flickering in his mind, finding comfort in their shared past. We made it through that, didn't we? Barely, Sophie chuckled, but it brought us closer. Just like this. He knew she was right. Disasters had a way of weaving bonds, revealing strengths they didn't know they had. In that moment, surrounded by chaos and flames, Jack realized that facing their fears could also mean facing each other. As they continued to work, the fire crackled dangerously close, casting ominously flickering shadows. Then, just when they thought the flames would find enough breath to consume more, people started cheering direction and hope. We're forming a line. Keep those buckets moving. A renewed sense of purpose surged through them all. Jack grabbed a bucket from nearby, tossing water onto the edge of the fire, the hiss echoing like an anthem of defiance amidst the chaos. Keep going, he urged the line of volunteers. They responded with determination. Each splash of water splintered the flames, building a small momentum against the raging inferno. As the fire began to relent, Jack turned to Sophie, suddenly aware of the unspoken tension. I remember how we felt then. The uncertainty. Still there, right? Her gaze softened, revealing an openness he hadn't expected. Yes, but what matters is how we choose to face it. Do you think? He paused, suddenly realizing what was truly at stake. Would their actions today reshape the history of their relationship too? Would this fire become a metaphor for their buried feelings? Just then, another loud explosion rocked the mill, sending a rumble through the ground, and Jack's heart seized. They turned toward the roaring inferno, terror creeping in. Are you ready for this? He asked her, the question heavier than before. Ready for anything, Sophie replied, but her eyes were filled with something deeper, something unspoken yet tangible between them. With the mill burning behind them, Jack knew they had crossed a line. The fire was just the beginning of something new. But as embers flew into the sky, he couldn't shake the feeling that the real challenge still lay ahead. Would they confront the flames together, or would they let the fear of their past consume their future? The flames crackled louder, devouring everything in their path. Jack squinted against the heat, the smoke stinging his eyes as he tried to focus on Sophie. "I can't believe this is happening," she muttered, her voice strained. But Jack saw the fire in her eyes, a fierce determination burning brighter than the flames around them. He wouldn't let her down. They needed to fight. "Remember, we're in this together," Jack reassured, as he grabbed another bucket. The water was sloshing over the sides, but it didn't matter. Each drop counted. Powerful water splashes sent steam rising up, mingling with the smoke, and for a moment, Jack felt like they were turning the tide. A moment later, Marcus sprinted back into view, faces covered in soot but filled with resolve. "More people are coming, Jack." They heard the explosion. He paused, catching his breath. "We need to set up a perimeter and keep everyone safe." "What about the families?" someone shouted from the crowd, fear pulling taut in her voice. "They'll all be okay," Marcus barked back. "But we need to act fast. A crowd can turn panicked very quickly." Jack exchanged a glance with Sophie, both of them understanding the weight of what they had to do. He sprinted toward the fray, Sophie beside him, communicating seamlessly as they worked together to form a new plan. Their instincts and trust in each other made the chaos a little more manageable. With determination, they set to creating a boundary around the area. The volunteers spread out, forming a human shield against the fire and panic. As they established control, Jack found Chloe again, this time directing a group to distribute water. "We need to keep everyone hydrated," she urged, gesturing toward the crowd. "This might be a long night." "Right?" Jack nodded, even as a tingle of anticipation sparked in him. Chloe was right. They could be in it for hours. "Keep an eye on the kids. We can't let them get overwhelmed." Sophie looked at him with admiration and fear. "Jack, what if it spreads?" He straightened his back, heart racing. "Then we fight. Together." But as they turned back to the flames, a dollop of realization struck him. That growing connection with Sophie was akin to the wildfire in front of them. Unpredictable and dangerously beautiful. He had always felt something for her, but now it was tearing through him raw and undeniable. "What if we don't make it?" Sophie said, her voice barely above a whisper, the reality of their situation sinking deeper. "What if we do?" Jack responded instantly, wrapping his fingers around hers, feeling the warmth and strength they could share. It wasn't just about surviving the flames. It was about what they could become together. Suddenly, a blast of black smoke choked the air, swirling ominously as debris crashed nearby. People shouted, panic kicking up a notch. Jack tightened his grip on Sophie, heart pounding. But there was a newfound spark between them. "Don't let go," he yelled over the chaos. They faced the looming threat together, but Jack saw the shadow of fear in her eyes. They both needed to confront their past, to step out from the burning debris of hesitation and finally declare their truth. He was ready to dig deeper, to lay it all out on the line. "Right now, it feels like everything is on fire, but maybe it's our chance to emerge from the ashes. Just hold on." Sophie's eyes searched his, confusion mixing with a flicker of hope. "Jack, what are you saying?" she asked, breathless. He opened his mouth to answer, but another loud crash echoed, drowning their words, painting their fates against the backdrop of fire and ruin. Would they answer the unspoken call of the heart, or let the flames of the past consume them both? In that moment, Jack realized they needed to fight for not just their lives, but for love. And facing the inferno wasn't just about survival. It was about daring to ignite something new. But before he could capture the right words, hope laced with urgency flickered in his mind. What if the flames weren't the only thing worth saving? As they braced against the chaos, Jack's heart raced with an Unanchored truth. What would they face when the fire was finally under control? Would their hearts get burned? Or could this bond rise well beyond the ashes? The chaos roared around them, but in that moment, Jack and Sophie stood firm, their hands locked together amid the swirling smoke and crackling flames. The distant wail of sirens began to cut through the inferno, but it felt vague and muffled, as if it belonged to another world entirely. "Don't let go," Jack repeated, his voice steady despite the anxiety blooming in his chest. He could feel her fear, as tangible as the heat radiating from the flames. But the grip of her hand held a promise, a reminder that they were not alone in this fight. "Jack, look," Sophie shouted, pointing past the blaze. A large tree had collapsed, sending sparks flying into the air and catching the attention of everyone nearby. A wave of uncertainty swept through the crowd, eyes darting around as a sense of impending chaos hovered like an ominous cloud. "Stay together," Marcus barked, rallying a couple of volunteers to help shift debris and keep the situation under control. Jack could see Chloe moving through the throng, handing out water bottles to those who needed them most, doing her best to maintain order. "Okay, we have to," Jack began, only to be interrupted by another loud crash. The ground beneath them vibrated, and a surge of smoke erupted, obscuring their vision. Jack instinctively moved closer to Sophie, shielding her from the worst of it. The heat intensified, wrapping around them like a suffocating blanket. "Jack, we need a plan," she said, her voice trembling now. "This is getting worse. Are we going to fight this?" He could feel the uncertainty swirling around in her gaze, and he steeled himself before answering. "Yes, we are going to keep our people safe and us too." He looked deep into her eyes, feeling a bolt of adrenaline rush through him. "Let us split up. I'll help Marcus with the perimeter while you keep everyone calm. Keep Chloe in sight. If anyone gets lost, we meet at the fountain." Sophie nodded, her expression shifting from dread to resolve. With their plan formed, they shared a final, significant glance. It spoke volumes of commitment, trust, and a hint of something unspoken and understanding that this moment could shift everything. Jack turned to move, but Sophie grabbed his arm, pulling him back for one last moment. "If we don't make it, we will," he insisted fiercely, his eyes locking onto hers. "No more what-ifs." And then she released him, turning to face the chaos, ready to spread calm where panic threatened to erupt as Jack navigated through the crowd toward Marcus. The gravity of the situation pressed against him. He could see families huddling together, eyes wide with fear and disbelief. The fire flickered like a demon, eager to consume all in its path, but Jack refused to let despair take hold. "Marcus, we need to expand the lines," he shouted, spotting his friends struggling to divert the oncoming tide of smoke and confusion. "If we can keep it contained, we can protect the others." Marcus nodded, breathing heavily. "But how? We can't keep doing this forever. We keep fighting," Jack replied, urgency swelling within him. He hoisted another bucket of water, ready to douse the flames again, feeling the weight of the moment press on his shoulders. This wasn't just about saving lives. It was proving to Sophie and the others that they could emerge from this terror hole. Every splash felt like a heartbeat, restoring hope against the destruction surrounding them. The crowd began to chant, their voices blending with the roar of the flames, a mantra of rebellion against despair. But as Jack rejoined Sophie's group in the distance, he caught a glimpse of something dangerously stunning, a fragile flower pushing through the ash, a symbol of hope amid the destruction. Would they find the beauty in this struggle or get lost in the flames? He turned just in time to hear Chloe urge the kids to stay low, her voice a lifeline for families desperately keeping it together. A sudden thought struck Jack. Fire was not only a threat but also a mirror of their fears and hopes. What if confronting this chaos became their chance to overcome all that held them back? As they poured water onto the flames, Jack felt more than physical sweat. He felt the sweat of passion, of what was at stake. They were fighting to save more than the land. They were fighting to emerge as something stronger than before, and the haze of smoke. A sudden loud crack filled the air, transforming his hope into fear. What if the inevitable confrontation with the flames became a confrontation with their hearts? "Jack!" Sophie's voice broke through his thoughts, but he sensed the urgency in her tone long before he turned to see her pale face. "Look out." Before he could react, his instincts kicked in. A beam, charred and ready to fall, was headed their way. In the last moment he dove forward, pushing Sophie out of the path just in time. But in doing so, he lost his footing on the ashes beneath him. Tumbling into the chaos, pain shot through him. Jack knew they were at a turning point, one that would either build their love or bury it amidst the ruins. Would he rise from this challenge, both literally and metaphorically? Or was this the moment that would break them? The fire raged around them, but what lay within the flames was even more terrifying, a chance to truly face their feelings amidst the shrouded shadows. Pain radiated through Jack's body as he hit the ground. The ash swirled around him, momentarily blinding him, but he immediately pushed himself up, determination igniting a fire of its own within him. He searched desperately for Sophie, fear gripping him like the heat of the flames around them. "Sophie!" he shouted, the sound barely making it through the chaos. A few feet away, he spotted her staggering back to her feet, panic coursing through her eyes, but she quickly steadied herself as she spotted him. Relief washed over him, but it was fleeting. The world felt unstable, the ground shifting beneath him like the very flames they fought against. He could see the collapse of order around them, the chaos clawing closer. "Jack, are you okay?" Sophie rushed toward him, brushing ash from his shirt as if she could wipe away any lingering remnants of danger. "Yeah, I'm fine," he replied, though his voice wavered. He focused on her, the fire roaring behind her, casting a flickering light that illuminated the fear in her features. We have to move." Sophie hesitated, her gaze flicking back toward the group. Chloe was attempting to herd children away from the spreading flames, but confusion reigned. Jack's heart pounded. They couldn't afford to freeze like this, not now. "Let us help her," Jack urged, taking Sophie's hand, his lifeline through this raging storm. As they ran, Jack could feel the bond between them growing tighter, forged in moments of fear and love. They dove into the crowd, shouting words of encouragement, urging families to stay close, to keep moving toward the fountain. The chant had transformed into a makeshift command, a rallying cry that connected the crowd, turning their fear into resolve. Jack felt a surge of hope. They were not just victims of the flames. They were united in their fight. Suddenly, a sharp cry pierced the chaos. Jack's heart dropped. He turned to see a child, no older than 5, standing frozen near the edge of the fire's reach. The girl's face was streaked with tears, eyes wide and filled with terror. Jack's instinct kicked in, and without thinking, he sprinted toward her. "Hey, it's okay. Just come to me," he shouted, pulling Sophie along as they both instinctively crouched low. "No," the girl screamed, glancing back toward the towering inferno that loomed behind her. "I can't." Jack's breath hitched. He could see the panic spilling over, not just in her eyes but in her small body trembling where she stood. The world felt impossibly loud, voices mixed with the crackle of flames, sirens drawing ever closer. "Sweetheart, you need to trust us," Sophie said softly, coaxing. She stepped forward, voice steady as she knelt down to the girl's level. "We're here to help you. Can you come to us?" Jack held his breath. Every moment stretched into eternity as their words sank in. In that heartbeat of time, he realized that while the fire threatened to consume them, it was also illuminating something raw and powerful. The child hesitated, glancing back at the fiery chaos, and for a moment, it felt as if their fate rested in her tiny hands. "My mommy," she cried. Jack felt a sharp pang in his chest. "Your mommy's safe," he promised, though he couldn't know for sure. "We'll find her together. I swear." The little girl took a trembling step forward, glancing up at Sophie, who smiled tenderly. "Just a few more steps," Sophie encouraged. "We're right here." With another breath, that tiny silhouette darted toward them, and Jack let out a breath he didn't know he was holding, catching the girl as she rushed into his arms. "Can you take her?" Sophie asked, her voice urgent but full of courage. Jack nodded, still holding the girl tightly. "Let's go." Their focus shifted back to the crowd, trying to weave through the chaos, but it was becoming harder to keep order as the heat grew more oppressive. Suddenly, a howl of wind swept through, sending a surge of embers into the air. Jack's heart raced as the fire flickered, shadows dancing wildly. Did they have time? They pushed through, voices rising, but with every step Jack took, he felt the weight of his mission, the stakes of the moment crashing down. What would happen if they couldn't save everyone? What if they lost someone they loved? Just as Jack reached for Sophia's hand again, a thunderous crack echoed, causing everyone to freeze. Towering above them, a wall of flames shifted dangerously, and the darkness that had crept closer felt more alive than ever. "Get back!" Jack shouted, instinctively shielding the little girl with his body and pulling Sophie close. They needed to regroup, but with every passing second, that window was closing. This was more than just a fight against flames. It was a fight for what mattered most. And then, with a bone-jarring thud, the ground shook. A massive beam crashed down nearby, sending debris flying. Jack felt serenity collide with panic. "Stay close," he shouted again, but as he glanced sideways, the worst realization hit him. Where was Chloe? The ember-choked air felt heavier than ever. They were losing not just time, but precious connections that could shatter everything. Would they find Chloe and escape this chaos together? Or would the flames tear them apart forever? Jack's heart raced as he scanned the fray, searching for any sign of Chloe. His eyes darted back to Sophie and the little girl cradled in his arms. Fear bristled under his skin, but he couldn't let it take him. "We need to move. Follow me," he urged, the urgency in his voice cutting through the smoke. Sophie nodded, determination shining in her eyes as she glanced around. "We have to find Chloe first. She's helping the others." They pushed through the crowd, every step taking them deeper into the chaotic scene. The heat pressed down around them, a relentless reminder of the fire that raged on just a few dozen yards away. Jack felt a mixture of fear and desperation building inside him, each heartbeat amplifying the weight of responsibility. The little girl whimpered softly, and Jack tightened his grip around her small frame. "You're safe with us," he reassured her, his voice steady even as panic thrummed through him. "We're gonna get you to safety. Just hold tight." Ahead, the smoke swirled ominously, snarling like a living beast. Jack and Sophie maneuvered past fallen tree limbs and scattered debris, moving toward the last spot they'd seen Chloe. Each moment that ticked by felt like an eternity, but Jack knew they needed to keep going. "Chloe!" he shouted hoarsely, the din around them swallowing his voice. "Over here!" came a shout. Jack's heart leapt as he spotted her near the fountain, directing a small group of volunteers. But just then, an explosion rocked the mill, flames shooting into the sky, sending a shower of embers raining down. The crowd gasped collectively, people shooting fearful glances at the relentless flames. Jack stumbled as the ground vibrated beneath him, sending a shockwave of terror through his gut. "We have to get everyone back," he shouted, pushing the little girl into Sophia's arms for a brief moment. "Keep her safe." He dashed toward Chloe and the volunteers. "We need to evacuate. Get everyone to the square," he called out, adrenaline propelling his words. The urgency of the situation settled over him. He couldn't let fear consume him or his community. They had faced enough already. Chloe's eyes widened with understanding. "Right. Everyone listen up. We need to form a line. Move toward the fountain. Let us go." She organized the group with an impressive calmness, and Jack felt a swell of pride. This was the strength of their community, their interconnectedness. As they rallied the townspeople, Jack caught Sophia's eye, the gaze bolstering him. "See, we've got this. We just need to stick together." "But," she hesitated, her voice soft, "what if we lose someone? What if no? We won't lose anyone," Jack insisted, locking eyes with her, the bond between them tightening. "You know we're stronger together." With a roar, the flames shifted again, relentless in their advance. But that didn't waver Jack's conviction. They would save who they could. By working together and holding on to that connection, they could rise above the tragedy. The little girl's voice broke through, "Where's my mommy?" Jack knelt beside her, squeezing her hand reassuringly. "We'll find her, I promise. Just keep moving, okay?" As the volunteers directed traffic, the urgency surged, each person working as a unit. Jack stood by, directing those around him, but his heart yearned for Sophie. With every flaming crash above, the fear of losing her clawed at him, isolating him in a swirl of chaos. Then, just when he felt the tide of dread about to overwhelm him, he glanced back at Chloe. The fire stretched its ferocious grip through the building, and in that moment, time paused. "Chloe, stay close," he shouted, pulling Sophie with him. The three of them formed a tight circle around the little girl, embodying a united front against the flames. As they nudged the group toward safety, Jack felt the spark of something shifting. All at once, it dawned on him. Their community wasn't fractured by fear. It was fueled by love and drive. Amid the looming threat of flames, he caught Sophia's eye again, and he saw an acknowledgement. They both felt it, the bond that surged through their shared experiences. After this, he said breathlessly, "I don't want to hide anymore." Sophia's expression transformed. Vulnerabilities bared in the flame's bright glow. "I don't want to either. We can rebuild. Together." Just as she finished speaking, the air exploded with sound. The roar of the fire grew more intense, and the cracks of the structure above them echoed ominously. Jack scooped up the little girl again, holding her tightly against his side. "Keep going," he yelled, his voice cutting through the chaos as they all rushed toward safety. Everything felt alive, the pulse of community, the fire of hope, and the understanding that even in chaos, connection was their strongest weapon. With each hurried step, Jack felt joy surge amid the horror. They would rise from these ashes, stronger than before. They reached the fountain, panting hard. The crowd began to disperse, yet Jack stood firm. He felt Sophia's hand slip into his, and he squeezed it tightly. They were not just surviving. They were alive, every heartbeat echoing an unspoken truth. Behind them, the flames continued to rage, but they were no longer just an obstacle. They were a catalyst, demanding that Jack and Sophie confront everything they had shared, everything that had held them back. "We'll face it all together," Jack declared. "Together." Sophia's voice radiated strength as they exchanged a look, one filled with a deeper understanding than words could express. He knew that no matter what lay ahead, they would navigate it hand in hand, rising from the fire into a brighter dawn as the smoke curled away. A sense of possibility hung in the air. They had all faced the fire, but now it was time to move forward. Amid tension and uncertainty, Jack felt something irrepressible ignite within him: hope, love, and the conviction that they were truly stronger together. From the crumbling remains, they would create something new. Jack turned to the crowd, breathing deeply, feeling the pulse of the community surrounding him. "Let us rebuild. For our town, for each other. Together," he shouted, igniting a fresh roar of support around him. A tangible wave of love that surged forward. The fire was fierce, but so was their resolve. They would emerge victorious, a community renewed. And more importantly, Jack realized, the flames hadn't consumed them, they illuminated a path ahead. One filled with promise and love just waiting to bloom. This was their moment, and they would not let it slip away. Now, it's your moment. You need to subscribe immediately to this channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that celebrate transformation and hope. Leave a like now, every click helps feed the algorithm. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending. Your voice matters. And share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share the hope that this story brings. Show your support for our community by joining in today.